editor of Brexit Central. Colin's saying that people won't be too angry if Brexit doesn't happen. Is he right?
No, I don't think he is. I think there would be unspeakable anger if the government and Parliament don't deliver on the verdict of the 2016 referendum. What we saw in 2016 was the biggest democratic exercise this country has ever seen. 17.4 million people voted to leave the European Union, a majority of over 1 million over the Remain side. And the leaflet that the then government, spent £9 million of our money sending to every household in the country said the government will deliver whatever you choose as the result. And obviously the then government under David Cameron didn't anticipate the people voting to leave because they had all campaigned to Remain and they'd spent our money telling us to vote Remain. And David Cameron had refused to allow his civil service at that stage to make any planning for the eventuality of a leave vote, which I think was deeply irresponsible.
Maybe the truth is
what
that
we voted for.
Maybe the truth is that politicians who have had time to really look into this, arguably more than the average voter, have quietly or openly come to the conclusion that Brexit is ruinous for this country and they don't want it to happen. And that's democracy at work. The outcome of the referendum was the wrong one.
Can I interrupt here?
Clearly, there are a number of politicians who think it was the wrong decision, but actually, that's not their call. It was the call of the British people. That was the whole point of having a referendum. That the politicians said,
"Can I interrupt here?
Go for it, Colin.
You make the decision."
Jonathan, sorry, Colin wants to get in. Jonathan's just saying, we had a referendum result. We need to stick by it. That's why you have referendum, right?
We'd have no sewers, no hygiene in this country. If we'd followed democracy, a lot of people didn't want to spend money in the Victorian times on all these hygienes and things like that, and a lot of other things in this world.
All right, thanks, Ollie. Sorry, go ahead, Jonathan. Oh,
I'm not quite sure what the relevance of that last point about sewers was, but there we are. No, look, it was the biggest democratic vote this country's ever seen, and it is absolutely vital that Parliament delivers on that result. And I say that it depresses me that there are numerous members of Parliament who have been saying for the past however long we respect the referendum result, who now say, but we want to stop it from being delivered. Those statements are clearly incompatible.
Even if the evidence on ballot seems to show that we'll be worse off in Brexit, you think it's more important to push it through because that was the result of a referendum when we didn't know what the outcome of that referendum would be. We kind of have a much better picture now.
Well, no. I'm not sure what evidence does show that we're going to be worse off.
Closing of car plants, lack of preparation at our ports.
There are some projections.
Slowdown of our economic growth.
There are some projections that say that we will not grow as fast as if we were in the European Union. There's no evidence to prove that because it's just a projection, and you only need to look at the projections from before the referendum to see that a lot of these projections are completely wrong. What the Treasury said at the time of the referendum, the direct result of a vote to leave would be a hike in unemployment of between 500,000 and 800,000 as a result of the vote to leave, not actually leaving, just the vote to leave. Today we've seen a 45-year low of unemployment. The figures on that are incredibly good for the economy. And by the way, of course, the Treasury did say at the time there would be these dire economic scenarios if you voted to leave. But yet people listened to those sides, looked at those figures that provided, and they nonetheless still voted to leave.
Do you want Theresa May to get this effectively third vote on her deal or not?
Well, I mean, if she had that vote today or tomorrow, I'm not sure that it would get through. The problem that Brexiteers now find themselves in is that they're being presented with several very unpalatable options from the government. One is a potential acceptance of this deal, which in many ways doesn't actually deliver Brexit at all because it leaves the UK beholden to the EU, and with the backstop that we've heard so much about, potentially leaving the whole of the UK tied to the single market.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some might say, Jonathan, reality sucks, doesn't it? This is the reality. Do you know, all of the pipe dreams that we were sold during the referendum have now flown away. And what we have now is reality, which is that the EU was never going to give us everything we wanted with a bow on top. We were always going to have to negotiate from a point of weakness. That is what has happened. This is the outcome we were always going to get. So there's no use saying if we'd have had Bojo or Jacob Rees-Mogg or, Attila the Hun going in and doing our negotiations, we would have been left with a bit of a fudge. That's reality. So in fact, maybe it would be better just to admit that and go, we got it wrong. No, Brexit.
I don't accept that. And of course, the alternative, one of the unpalatable is the deal on the table. The other is the idea of an extension of the negotiating period for what ends, I don't quite know. The other alternative is the fact that in law, the UK leaves the European Union at the end of next week. And in that scenario, the UK doesn't hand over £39 billion to the European Union, and we trade with Europe on WTO terms as we do with the rest of the world. From that moment on, and by the way, some people call that no deal. No deal would not be an end state. That is the point at which the EU and the UK would re-engage talks, but from a point of being equal partners rather than the current situation where we've been put into the position of supplicants.
Thank you very much, Jonathan Isaby, editor of Brexit Central.